In today's class, we're going to go over the lightsaber texture project. All right, so with using these examples, you can also look online the Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi lightsaber if you want to have a better idea. But we're going to be using our model that we've created to make our materials for it. All right. So for this project, you're going to use your polygon one, and then you're going to make your materials for them. You're going to apply it to your model, and you're going to render it out. And you're going to turn in the render file, and then also the Cinema 4D file. But this will be due April 13th. So don't freak out. You know, we have plenty of time. So the next week is the due date for the model. So if you guys are still working on it, that's perfectly fine. You can even work on the textures on a unfinished model at this point. Now, you might not be able to apply certain things if you haven't modeled them, but you can still make the materials themselves. And then once you have those parts created in your model, then you can apply it to them that way. All right, this is going to be due on the 13th, so you have a total of 2 weeks from today to complete this. This is a very easy project, to be perfectly honest with you. If you really want to look at this in a way, if I was going to look at this right here, I have a silver material, I have a black metal material, and I have a copper material. Now, if you went ahead and you model this part right here, which is at the top, then you can have that as well. If you guys want, I think I have a previous lecture where I went over that modeling part. I can add that to, I'll add that to the polygonal model thing, and I'll give you a timestamp when it starts, when I start doing the modeling that part for that, if you want to do that. For the polygon, you don't have to have it, so you can have it looking like this. But if you wanted to have this model part right here, you know, there's really only 2 additional ones, you know, the red and the green light that you would make. So if I want to look at this in a sense of breaking down this project, I have 3, maybe 5 materials you're making, and then you're applying it to the object. And really, if we really break this down, you're really only going to be spending extra time applying the black metal and then the copper right there. And the copper is going to be super easy. The black metal is probably going to take you the most time. All right. So let's get into it. All right. I have here a previously modeled lightsaber that I made. This it went all the way when I did the model. So here we go. A complete lightsaber. All right, before I get into this, anybody have any questions on the assignment that's required or was required here or anything like that? No questions? Cool. Excellent. Okay, so if I want to look at this model here that I have right here. So we have like an aluminum metal material. I have some sort of a black metal material, and I have a copper material. So I have like 3 different materials. So what I'm going to do is let's work on the silver material. So I'm going to create a new material. And then what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to rename it so I know what I'm making here. So I'll make this silver. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this to my object, my lightsaber body. Now this whole thing is going to have this silver look to it. All right. But that's okay, because we're going to, once we get to creating the other materials, we're going to apply them to individual polygons themselves, and we'll get into that down the road. But here we go. We have this applied right here. I'm also going to apply this to my nub here as well. I know that the main part of my nub body or the number right there is silver also as well. And then I think I have this cube bottom. Nope, no, that's the wrong one. The base. Where is this? Nope. It's a button. If I could read my own stuff, that'd be great. Top. Okay, so here's the base. Gotcha. That's the whole thing. So I'm going to also apply it to here as well, because that's this whole thing right here. Which, if I look at my object right here, you can see that it has a base of a silver, and then there's like a black and white top with a black stripes that's right there, and a copper top right there. So, but the base part is going to be silver. All right. So the nice thing when you are applying materials to your object is that when you update the color for the object, if it's applied to your object overall, it's going to automatically update. So that's why it can be very nice to say, okay, well, I know what I'm going to apply this material to, and I don't have to do that right off the bat if I don't feel like it, but sometimes it might be helpful where say like overall, these things are going to be silver. So it might be helpful to apply it to the things you know that's going to be there so that you can see how it looks overall for the most part. All right, so as you can see, I have the ability to change that as well. Now, what we're going to do is, since we're trying to imitate silver, let's go look up some pictures of silver. So silver metal. All right, cool. Let's just look at some images and let's see what do we kind of get here. What colors are we kind of getting here with the silver? Like a gray, there's some blue hues here, and some of them right here. There is like a little bit of hint of a blue. I don't know how well that's showing up over here. It's like maybe you can see a little bit better here with the blue. This does have some blue to it as well. So I'm just gonna look at some of these metals to kind of see where I'm at. So it's a lighter gray, and it's going to be, has a little bit of a blue hue to it. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pick like a nice color to it. Going to have this blue right here and maybe add just a tiny bit of blue saturation to it. All right. It's going to start giving us a good base for it. All right. Now we want to go down our list and see what do we need. Any diffusion? No. We do. Is this going to glow? No. Is it going to be a transparent object? No. Is it going to have some reflectance? Like, is it going to be shiny and stuff? Yes. So let's go over here to our reflectance here, and we're going to go ahead and we can adjust these a little bit to try to figure out how we want to have it, how it's going to be. Now a metal is going to be a little bit shinier, so we might want to have it be a little bit wider, because depending on what we have, and we're going to get more into how things are go. So don't necessarily worry about how all my settings are going to be. I'm just kind of moving stuff around while also looking over here. Now, another thing that we can do is, if you want to have a really good idea on how it's going to look, we can add a render window, render region. So if I hold down this area that we've been using, this button that we've been using to render stuff, and go to render region, it allows me to draw an area that I can render stuff out just a little bit. Now, there's also a where is the interactive render region? Now, what the interactive render region does is it allows me to have a rendered area that's going to always start being rendered out. Now, it's not really going to look very much different right now, because we're just using a gray, and by default our stuff is gray. But let's say if I add a light source here, you can see that I'm getting shadows and stuff like that when I have one of my light sources activated. If I add my physical sky to it, you can see that I have different colors as well. I have a couple different light sources added to here as well. Now, once we start adding more of a metallic stuff to it, it might be beneficial for you to add a light source. So we haven't gone into this right now, but there should be a physical sky. You could do sunlight right there. Could be something as well that could be very helpful to apply, but we have trying to get, where is that? The physical sky. Did they take it out of the options right here? All right, let's see where they put it. Okay. So you can also add this physical sky to it. So it's going to give you some level of colors and stuff like that. And I understand that we haven't gone into lighting, but just understand once you start adding light, that's when you're really going to start seeing how materials interact with stuff. So if you go to where this little lattice thing where it says the floor, if you hold down and go to physical sky, it's going to create this object that's a physical sky. And it's going to act like a sky and stuff like that. And so you can pick a time and date where things are going to be and whatnot. Well, I'm going to get somewhat more into this when I get farther down the line, when we do lights, which I believe is the next class we do lights, I believe. So yeah, we're going to have this, but so like again, so if you want to, you can throw in a physical sky and you'll get a better idea on how your materials are actually going to be interacting with stuff. So because again, right now we just have our grays, and you're not really getting the full idea. Okay. Well, this gives me a better idea on how shiny it's going to be. So like maybe I want something that's a little bit shinier right here. I'm going to mess with this fong, and I can play around with different things as well. So I can play around with the fall off. So that's starting to look a little bit shinier. This is a little more plasticky, but because a major reason why this is starting to look more plasticky is because yes, it's being more reflective and stuff like that, but metal is a little more reflective, and this is just really shiny. So this is more like it's not really reflective, so it's just more of a shiny experience. But metal can be pretty shiny, depending on the angle that you look at it, you're going to get a different look. But we are getting a nice highlight, and so what I'm really looking at with these speculars is where it gets really white on this area. So like this area right here, that's your specular. So this is my specular, wherever the white light. So pretty much the sun is probably like way up over here, is being projected down in that direction. All right. Now, the next thing that you can do here is we can make this into a metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do add, and I'm going to do my reflection legacy. Now, once I do that, you're going to see that it's going to interact a little bit differently here. And you're going to see that it's going to be really, really shiny. It should be really, really chromy. As you can see, the difference between where it's not being rendered to where it's being rendered, it's a whole lot different. Now, the reason why it's like this is because our reflection strength is set to 100%. Now, what does that mean when our reflection strength is set to 100%? It's pretty much like a mirror. Now, you can have some metals that will have a mirror look to it, all right? But overall, you're probably not going to have that. It's going to be a little bit more dull. Maybe this is something that's worn down a little bit. It's not going to be as reflective. But as I reduce my reflection strength, I'm starting to get more of a more realistic looking metal here. And then all we're going to do here, as we're making these materials, we're just kind of playing around with all these things. So I can go back over here and say, maybe I want this to be a little more rough because maybe it's a more of a polished look to where if it's not rough at all, it's going to be more of a mirror. So playing around with the roughness can also give you a different look to it. All right. So if you click up here and go down to interactive render region, that's going to give you that box. No problem. Now it's very useful when you're working on some things, but when you start adding effects and stuff like that, where the render time starts adding a whole lot to like 30 seconds, it's going to take a long time. Because remember when I was adding the sample sizes and stuff like that, that the render time started being like 30 seconds. There was at one point in time I got for like 2.5 minutes and stuff like that. That's still going to apply right here because it's gonna render it like it's an actual render. So it will take a long time. Again, so we can play with other things as well. We can play around if we want it more of a highlight and stuff as well. We can add that as well. Right there. So I would say that if you're looking at these channels and you're dealing with metal, here are some of the rules. So the roughness is going to be how you look at that, how polished is that metal. You know, you can have metal has all sorts of different stages of shininess. You can have a really polished metal that's going to be reflective. It's going to be almost a mirror. So if that's the case, then we go all the way down to 0. And then probably have a really high reflective strength as well. And then, you know, so if maybe I want this to be, you know, it's something that it's a shiny metal, but I don't necessarily need it to be, you know, super shiny and reflective like a mirror, because not all metals like that. Now, even if you look at some of these examples like this would probably be something that would be really polished, but even if you look at the silver right here, with it being very polished, it's still very rough. It's not a mirrored look. You know, this is you could probably get it over here, but that takes a lot of sanding and stuff like that. So, yeah. All right, cool. So we're just gonna now we might come back here and tweak stuff a little bit more here or there, but we know that we have this look that we like. We're gonna kind of play around with that. All right. Now, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna add a bump to this. All right. And what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna look for some sort of metal, and probably ones that don't have those things. We can edit that out if need be. But we're gonna look for something that has a nice striations with the metal to kind of give us that look of maybe a polished material. Now let's see. There's a silver metal. Maybe we'll try this one. And the thing that we want that you want to look at when you're trying to get textures and stuff like that is actually the bigger the size of the file are, the better that you're going to have for quality for your overall material. So maybe this one's a nice big large one. It's not going to let me. Let's maybe buy it. I don't want to do that. I'll try this one. So I'm gonna let me get it. All right, cool. All right, I'm just gonna throw it inside here. Let me take a look at it. Cool. That looks pretty decent. All right, cool. So what I'm gonna do in my bump is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load that image. So there we go. Here is the silver. Boom, I'm gonna throw it in there. Now what we're gonna see here is that you're gonna see more striations on here. Now I'm gonna show you what happens. So let me take a picture of it, a render of it, with and without the bump. So here is a render with the materials. And then let me turn off the bump. Boom. And then render that out. And so then we can kind of see the big difference with this. Oh, there is not much difference. Did it actually turn off? Oh, nope. I just turned on the normal. Big mouse problems. All right, cool. Okay. I'm going to zoom in so we can kind of see a good quality. So here is it without the bump, and then now we have it with the bump. Now what we're getting here, the benefit that we're getting here is, and we're going to play around with it a little bit. You can start seeing some of the striations. This gives you like little subtle details for your models and stuff like that with these striations. Now it really depends on how you want this to be rendered. So like if you want it to be more horizontal, then you can do that. But if I go back up to my bump right here and I want to make it a little bit, I can do a couple different things here. So I can try to, let's see if I can do something. No, maybe what's the UVs? So maybe if I just want to have this, instead of it being horizontal, I can go to my texture tag and let's see if we can rotate it. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do here, turn off this interactive region, is that I'm going to get my texture tag mode, and I'm going to try to see if I can rotate this around. All right, there we go. There we go. Now that might give me a different look, and we'll see how this looks here with the rendered out version. So it's going to give me more of a swirl look right here. So we're just going to kind of play around with this and see what really kind of works really well for us. So maybe that one didn't work really well if we kind of rotate it this way. 90 degrees. It's going to give me a spot right there. I want it horizontal. So if that's the case, then maybe we can do here, as we can open up our friend Photoshop. I can open up that file. Up, and then we can then just rotate this. All right, are you going to be weird with me? There we go. I'm going to rotate it just 90 degrees. And I'm going to save this as a different one. So save as, apply this. Put the rotated. Okay, cool. There we go. Make it as large as possible. Cool. Back over here, and then let's try it with a different, that rotated one. I'll see if we get that different look at how we would like it. So let's go ahead and render this. So now I have the striations going down. So this can give you a different look as well. As you can see, here's the other one where it's more horizontal. And then I have this one with where it rotated the bump. Now they're going across this way. So it's really depending on how you want it. can work for us however you want. And also, if this is something that you want some spots to go horizontal, you want some other spots to go vertical, then it's very easy, since I have both those bumps, is that once I have this all created on all the settings that I want, I can then just make a duplicate and have, instead of having it rotated, I could have one that's the stripes are more vertical. So we'll say we like that. And what I'm going to do here is, once I have this, I say, well, we like the stripes going down horizontally this way, is that we can go to our bump here and we can play around with our strength. So maybe I want it to be a little more subtle. I can then just decrease this as well. All right. If we see what it looks like when I really crank it up, you can see that it's going to start looking more like saran wrap. So probably this one is going to be nicer to have more of a subtle look than it is going to be something that's not going to have it. And where I really see a whole lot that I can see is like I have these simple stripes right here that interact with the light. And then if I turn it off, they're not there. It just makes everything look a little smooth. So there's just like a little subtle hint of texture and more believability with my metal. All right, now I can go back up to my reflectance and stuff like that. And then we also have this other one too as well, that we can play around and say, like, we want to give a reduced bump strength right here as well. And so this should interact together. So if I crank this up really high and then go right here, and I believe this is just going to be with the highlights and stuff like that. So if I make that really low. So as you can see, this bump strength as well interacts with this one right here. So if I feel that I have it right over here where it's really high, but then I go to my reflectance right here, I can also use this bump strength to play around with how strong I want it to be. So this could actually give you a more of a fine tuning of it. So if you're saying, like, if you can't get the difference between a couple of degrees here or there, this gives you a wider range of how strong you want it to be, because we're at 100% is where it's going to give you 100% of the value that you have right there. But if I can say, oh, this is still too strong, I can still kind of bring it down a little bit more. It gives you more of a finite control over your strength of your bump. All right. All righty. So we just have, with just kind of getting some sort of material right there, we have a decent looking silver right off the bat, and it was a couple steps right there where I have that. And, I just want to look at my lightsaber throughout the whole thing, just to see if there's anything weird that's happening. So like maybe on here, if I look at my materials, you see that maybe the way that it kind of goes up right here, it's not looking 100% great. No, I mean, that looks pretty fine. So sometimes it looks different from your work area than it does in the render. But if it does look weird and we want to say, hey, everything else looks really fine, but we want to have on a different spot to look different, then we can go from there. Now, I'm not too worried about how they look in these middle parts right here, because on the lightsaber itself, I'll go back to right here, the top peaks are the only parts that are going to be silver. So if for whatever reason this material looks funky in between right here, just understand that we're going to have a different material there. So we really don't have to worry about applying that and creating that right there. I just want to look, double check, make sure everything looks fine. Yeah. All right, let's see what it looks like with an additional light on there. All right. Oh, but that's for those over there. Yeah. That looks pretty nice. There we go. Cool. So we have a silver. Again, if I wanted to, I can use this as a base for another silver for whatever reason. So like maybe we had a silver that is going to have, maybe the handle will be a little bit dirtier and stuff like that. You know, you can add, you know, some additional stuff to that as well if you wanted to. But you know, we're just going to kind of play around with this as well. You know, and you know, it is very easy to kind of like go back through here and say, okay, well, I don't want this to be as reflective, and kind of play around with this. So it's okay to go back and forth with the materials and kind of play around with your settings that you have. So maybe I don't want it to be as rough, and we'll see what happens when my metal is a little more shiny and stuff like that. No, I had it set to average over here on this type of metal. But if we wanted to, again, if we wanted to use our colors that we have set over here, we can also do the additive as well. And we can play around with our colors as well. So this again, right now, it kind of looks with that color additive, it looks a little bit more plasticky. So we would just kind of maybe make it a little more shinier. You can see how that is. There we go. Then also maybe I want to decrease my main color a little bit more. Okay, with the texture? Oh, because it has a raw file, so it's a zip file. So that's probably why you have to unzip it. And I don't know if you have the ability to do that. So I don't know. Okay, so so now what I did, because I didn't have it, I had to change my color a little bit. So the color, and then I had to bring it down a little bit. What this was adding that color to it, so now to get more of a silver, I had to tone it down a little bit. Yeah, so if you know, I had them initially, they were horizontal. If you want them vertically, go this way. Then on the, you have to open up your texture and like some program that you can edit it with rotation, and then you just rotate it there and then save it. Okay, so because what we have right here is that it's now a metal surface that's reflecting. You don't have anything that is able to reflect on. So that's what. So, like, with this one, physical sky. Now, the physical sky will affect the look of it because it is a metal reflecting stuff. So if you have a different time, and if over here you can change the color a little bit. A little bit of color if you want to, like maybe a yellow or something like that. would pick with colors that are natural to sunlight.
Okay.
Oh, you're on your light option, so you just have to stop. Sky itself. Other things you can do as well is in this time and date location. So if you figure out what time frame, it's just going to give you a relatively idea of how the sun would be at a certain point in time. So it's probably going to be like a high noon. So that's nighttime. So it's going to give you an accurate. So you can select the whole bubble. And then rotate. Rotate. Zoom in, go closer. It is very subtle. Maybe check a little bit more with the bump side. Cool. All right. So we can say we have our silver. We can always go back and edit this more if we want to. Is, you know, that's the benefit of having these already applied to everything, is that we have that ability to do that. You know, again, if I wanted to, I can adjust. Maybe I want to add a little bit more blue to my silver. It's going to give me more of that color right there as well. Maybe I just want to push it just a little bit. I don't want to get too far into the blue, because if I get too far into the blue, then it's going to look like a blue metal, and not so much like a metal that has like a blue slight hue to it. All right. All righty, cool. So next thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to turn this off real quick so it doesn't get in my way, is that we're going to make our copper color. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my material here. New material. And click it and call this copper. All right, and let's just mess with the color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up, what does copper look like? Copper. So what are some colors that you guys are seeing with this? I guess reddish. Well, yeah, I mean that would be a green one too. There's like reds and kind of pinks, a little bit of oranges to it as well. If for whatever reason you want to kind of like get an idea of where, like what a color might be, then we can always do something like, you know, maybe that's a good color to kind of pull from. We can save an image. Let's see if it's going to let us do this. And then we could always pull it up in a program like Photoshop. So we have Photoshop. I'm going to open it up. My copper. And then what we can do is we can get our handy dandy color picker. And I'm just going to kind of pick a color that we have over here. All right. So the nice thing is, once you have a color that you kind of like, that you think is a good or average for what a copper color might be, is I can double click inside here and I can pull this hex code. All right, so I'm just going to copy this hex code. that I kind of pulled from. And then I'm going to go up to this copper, and I'm up at the color. I'm just going to select this hashtag, and I'm going to put the hex code in there. Now, once you have that hex code in there, you can go back to your CMYK or HSV values, and you can tweak it a little bit more. But that's a great way to have like a starting point with that. All right, so next thing that we're going to do here is that we need to apply this copper to our polygon object. But as you know, with our polygon object, if I just take this and I drag it right where I think it's going to be, what happened? Turn everything into copper. We do not want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my lightsaber, and what we can see the spots where it's going to be copper is going to be this big ring right here, and then that little smaller ring right there. So I'm going to go to my lightsaber, and so again, so what is going to be this one right here, and then this one right here is what's going to be copper. Now, to apply this, I'm going to turn off my subdivision bodies because it's going to be a little bit easier to figure this out. I'm going to select my lightsaber body, and I'm going to go to my face mode. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to select all the polygons that are right there that are going to be affected by this. Now I might have to kind of go through here and do a little bit with this, but if I can, I'm going to try to select this, and I might do this in a couple different modes here. So one mode I can do is I get this rectangle selection tool, and I know that I can quite possibly get this as much as possible. We'll see what I selected, and I can see that I accidentally selected that big part right there. So that didn't work too much, but at least I can kind of get this big part right here, or not right there, this part right here, and I can get those rings right there. And then what I'm going to do is I can either get my live selection tool, and I can kind of, while holding down shift, I'm going to select all of my faces here. All right. I'll do the same thing right here. Holding down shift. There we go. And then if you have not done the edge loop cuts and stuff like that, then you'll be pretty much fine right here. But if you did, then you're going to want to get this tiny ring that is on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my mover, and I'm just going to select the polygons that are on the inside or next to the ones that I've already selected. Now, the reason why I did that big rectangle selection is because this part right here has a lot of those little rings. But I'm just going to take my time, and I'm going to select these right here. All right, I'm going to select these, just take my time. Make sure you're selecting the correct ones. All right. And then don't forget that one, that's the one that's connecting them. And then I'm going to go on this side too as well. And I want to do the same thing for this side. So I want to select these ones on the inside. Here we go. These are the little ones that we're going to grab. There we go. Just take your time. Select them as you go. If you accidentally select something that you don't want to apply, you can always, while holding, so let's say you selected that, you can always hold on shift and then and click it again. So a selection with the move tool is, if you're holding on shift, it will select and deselect at the same time. Now, Once you have your faces applied, you can then drag and drop your material onto it. And as you can see, if when I do that, it's going to then just apply it to just that area. And if I turn on my subdivisions, you see that's all nice and fancy. All right. There we go. All right. Now, if I look at my lightsaber body here, this thing, and I go look over my texture tags and stuff like that, again, remember, it reads everything from right to left. So if I was going to read this, it does this polygon selection tag tool, copper, and then it does the silver. So what this does is if I double click on it, it will show me the polygons that are being selected. And then so it says that these polygons will then have this applied to it. So the one that's directly after the polygon selection tool will have those materials for it. All right. Now you don't have to have a texture tag or texture material applied for your polygon selection tool, because maybe for some reason you want to be able to select certain polygons while you're modeling or whatever. You can always create a polygon selection tool. So if I wanted to select maybe these couple right here for whatever reason, I can then go to tags, and there should be under it probably is going to be, where is it? It's going to be underneath here, not rigging. Might be able to do it. You can add one. Maybe it's a texture tag. You should be able to add. If not, you can always just apply a material to it and then just delete the material, and then you still have that selection tag inside there. Okay, cool. Now that I have that right there, and then also for me, if I want to continue on with this, is that I have this top part, this top base right here, is also going to be my copper. So I'm going to grab this right here, grab that, and just make sure that I think I over selected stuff, but it'll be pretty easy to fix that. There we go. It's not very many polygons right here. And then just these two. There we go. There, bam. I apply that as well right there. Now I have that copper. Cool. Now again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into our material, and we're going to do the same thing. This is a metal, so we have a nice color that we kind of picked out. We can tweak this down the road if when we add the colors and stuff like that. If it doesn't look correctly, we can tweak it. We don't have an diffusion. We don't have any luminance. We don't have a transparency. We do have a reflectance. So we'll kind of play around with this as well. So we're going to do the same thing as well. And I want to look at my copper material, and I can see that copper is shiny, but I would say that in comparison to silver, that I think the silver is a little bit more of a shiny material than a copper. Copper can be a little bit more of a dull color. So if I'm going to look at that, this is aluminum, zinc, aluminum, zinc, copper, and steel. So I don't know which one is because it's not in that order. But as you can see, copper, I believe maybe this one might be the silver. It can be shiny, but it is a little bit, maybe a little more duller as far as the specular goes. And I can see that up top right here is a lot more white. And This is probably the zinc. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna mess with the specular a little bit. Again, if I want to get my interactive render region out, that'd be very helpful. Then I can kind of see what I'm doing. There we go. Cool. I'm just kind of play around with this. There we go. Get it really nice. All right, cool. All right, and then I'm going to go and do additive, and we're going to do reflection again. Now for this one, we probably want to start off with the color to be additive. So we have that copper color that we can see this right here. As we see here is very, very dull with that color, and this. The physical sky might be blowing out, like if you guys are using that as a reference, that might be blowing out some of your colors, but we can play around with that. Again, the reason why this could also be really shiny is because it is extremely, I believe that might be my physical sky is really blowing out those colors. So maybe I'll just have this regular light source so I can see what the shininess does. My physical sky really blew out my colors. So I wonder if my silver is also too dark as well. The other color is the reason why there's issues is because I don't have anything that's reflecting off that. So I'll just leave that on there. Back to, there we go. All right, cool. All righty. Now we're gonna kind of play around with our colors with this. Play around with how we want this to be. Yes, what's up? The second I added like silver, they have to change the attenuation to additive. That's going to apply the color right there. All right, cool. So we're just going to kind of play around with this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see what's going on with this metal. And let me see, let's turn that roughness down a little bit more. And again, I might want to tweak my colors a little bit as well. It's okay to kind of tweak your colors, play around with them a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little bit darker color right there. Play around with a whole lot with it. And then again, we're going to look for a nice color or a bump that we can have as well. So now we don't have to necessarily pick copper for this. So what we can do too is, we have different textures and stuff like here. you know, as you can see that there are different types of textures that you can have as well for metals. So maybe I'm going to pick something with some different scratches and stuff like that as well. So maybe I like this one because it's got some interesting textures on here. I'm not going to worry about that for this right here, but let's do save the image, save it. I go over here, go to my bump, and apply my bump right here, get my materials, and I'm going to load that interesting copper look to it. Again, that's really, I need to tone it down a little bit. And maybe I need to go in here as well and tone down the reflectance strength right here as well. We want to have something that's a little bit more subtle. With our lights and stuff like that. I might. The fun thing is with some of these metals like a copper, it has some different tones, so it has a little bit reds to it as well. So what I might do as well is I might go to my color channel and add for the texture, add a color, and then make it more of a red, it's almost like a rose tune to it as well, and then just mix it a little bit. Add to it. There we go. Let's add to it a little bit. We'll have our reflectance. Maybe what I might want to do here. There we go. Okay. So another thing that we can do as well is that if you want to push a little bit more of that as well, you do have your layer color as well, so you can change that. So if you, the nice thing you can do if you want to apply certain things to different layers is, let's say I have this color here, I can drag and drop this color to my layer color, and that gave me more of a metal look that I was looking for. So then we can do that as well. Let's try doing that as well with our silver color as well. So maybe what I'm going to do here is in my color, I'll go back to where I had a nice silver over here. And maybe I'll just apply that to my reflectance color, layer color as well. And then that way, average that out. Cool. We can also, if you're not enjoying them too much, like if you do your layer color down there instead of through there, you can change your attenuation to metal as well, and then play around with that as well. So each of these different things, these types of mixing with these different colors can give you a different look. So maybe if I want to kind of go to metal, make sure that my layer color underneath that is set to what I want it to be. That might help push the certain color in a certain way. Go to my copper. Also, if I make this a subdivision object, it's going to give me the look that I want as well. And maybe let's try doing the metal on this one too as well. See what that looks. Gives me maybe a little darker. There we go. So for this is going to work really well for what we want is maybe the attenuation. We'll set it to metal, but we want to add our layer color right there. That works as well. That's a nice copper color. I wish I could add some more red to it. There we go. So this is all this really comes down to is just kind of tweaking values to look how you want it to look. There we go. A little bit brighter. Okay, so there we go. And if I want to go back to my silver, see what that one, what I can do with that one to kind of play around with that to look how I want it to as well. So there's all these channels you can kind of use to tweak what you're trying to get. All right, there we go. Maybe I'll try to see if I can increase my bump a little bit. Oh, was it? Am I the wrong one? Yep, that was the wrong one. Copper, bump. What happens if I increase my bump a little bit more? Gives me a nice look. Whenever you're picking like bumps and stuff like that, sometimes like getting these nice scratches and stuff like that can give you a whole lot out of this. I might not see it in certain spots, but if I can get some more randomness to it, then it's going to look pretty nice. Let's see a little bit more right here. Now these bumps might not really show up very much when you're really far away, but you might get some interesting highlights and stuff like that with them. Because you don't necessarily need to be very precise and stuff like that as well. Cool. All right. Cool. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to select our rib. So we want to go ahead. I'm going to take out my interactive region thing, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new material. This is going to be my black metal. And I'll just color this black just so I know what it is when I apply stuff. Cool. And then we just want to go ahead and we want to select our metal. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time to do this, I'm not gonna lie. Just because we want to select our rings. If you are if you're struggling selecting your rings and then applying them all at one time, you could do one set, apply that to the metal. You're just on your polygon body, you're gonna have a whole lot of texture tags, which is not a problem. But just so you know, you're gonna do it. So what I'm gonna do here is, if I have modeled mine correctly and it's not all wonky, then I should be able to, I'm gonna increase my window size, and you guys might be able to do a better job with this because I have a smaller workspace here. Is that I'm going to try to drag select these polygons. All right. All right, cool. Looks like I missed that one spot, so I might go ahead and do shift select and go this other direction right here. Cool. Now, the reason why I like to use this one, especially for something like this, is because since I've built this and they're all straight and stuff like that, is that I'm able to select even the smaller ring slits. So let me zoom in real close so you guys can see what I'm really doing. So when I'm selecting them, we have, this is the main edge that we have here, so we can kind of see the subdivision version. That's our main edge right there. And then here's our holding edges right there. So what we want to do is that if I get my drag selection down right here, and see what happens if I'm careful and I don't go over to where it's selecting this whole thing right there. If I'm just in the middle of that polygon, it's not going to select that polygon, because how this selection works is you have to select the whole polygon. So if I'm trying to be a little bit safe with this, I can say maybe I'm not able to really get very close where I want to be with the beginning part. I just want to make sure that the beginning part's not going to include anything else. But then I just kind of look over here, and where I'm looking is like either the top or the bottom, wherever I can really see that this is going to be in the middle of that polygon. And I selected them. And then I could hold down shift and then start somewhere else where it's in the middle of what I've already selected and go back the other way. There we go. And I'm just going to keep holding down shift and doing the same thing. This one is a pain in the butt. I'm not even going to lie. But it is what it is. There we go. So I'm going to keep doing this where I'm selecting these sides, and I'm really just using the first one to get more precise with the right side with that edge loop, and then I'm using this one to get the other side. Now I selected too much, so I can always go. You can always do undo, so you can undo that. So if you accidentally selected, you went too far with your selection, then you could always undo that. But again, very easy. It's just going to take a little bit of time for you guys to do this. Just take your time. Don't worry about it. If for whatever reason you don't like doing this way and you feel like it's a pain in your butt, then be my guest on selecting it however you feel that is going to work for you. See, I'm struggling a little bit with this. And what I might do, but I got it right that time, but I didn't start too high. Cool, there you go. Select these as we go. Some of these that I created, they're a little bit more. And again, if you have stuff selected, you want to move your stuff, you can also still, as long as you're holding down the Alt key, you can still use your mouse to move stuff around and stuff like that. If you're messing with the camera, you can always redo it as well. It's not a big issue. you can move around in your workspace with things still selected, and you're not going to deselect it, as long as you make sure that you hit your Alt key first. Because if you don't have your Alt key selected, then you're going to have issues. I'm going to hold on Shift. I'm going to click and drag these as much as possible. Hold down Shift. I'm going to click and drag these. It's just a big pain in the keister. It's not a big deal. There we go. I'm glad I got that one. That was pretty close together. All right, there we go. Select these as well. Excellent. Hold down Shift. Select these. There we go. Same thing right there. Ooh, that one's gonna be fun. And looks like I got it. Now, if for whatever reason you go through here and you're not able to, get things correct, or you missed something, you can always select your materials, and then, oh man, this one would be difficult. I made it really tight right there. Okay, cool. I think I got that one. All right, and then it also goes all the way to this part right there, the middle part. So I'm just going to do the same thing over here. Just try to get this. I think I got that correct. Yes, I did. Okay, excellent. All right, cool. And then now for that particular one part, I'm just going to go through here, and I'm going to select this inside ring. Now, I would highly suggest that when you guys are going through this and selecting stuff, is that you turn off your subdivision object, because it'll make things a lot easier. There's a lot less geometry you're trying to see where it is, and makes things a little bit easier to actually select the correct polygons. So just take your time with the whole thing. Cool. Now I got that. I'm going to apply my black metal to it. Bam. There we go. All right. Now I'm just going to double check my lightsaber. Yep, it goes all right there. I don't think it goes into it more. It's just more that shaft part right there. All right, cool. Also, if you guys are following along, you can probably use these buttons, these buttons as well, to add the black material to it as well. Although they might be more of a plastic look, but the metal will work fine. Cool, excellent. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back through here. I'm going to turn on my subdivision surface so I can see that it looks all nice. It's applied correctly. And I'm going back over here. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. No diffusion, no luminance, no transparency. We're just going to select our reflectance here, and we're going to adjust this as well. Now, I don't know what type of material that the black part could be. If it is if it would be considered a different metal material, or if it would be considered painted over. So it really depends on what it's going to be. Because if it was something that maybe it's a painted metal, then that's going to give you a different look than a shiny metal. I just kind of assumed that it's like some type of black metal. So I'm just going to kind of build it the same way that I did. But since I don't have like a base of what the metal should be, I'm going to try to make something that's a little bit interesting and maybe a little bit different than the other one. So maybe I'll play around with my speculars and stuff like that. Have them be really strong. Give a really strong specular strength. So that way, when they're in here, they have a different highlight look than my silver metals, because I have a lot stronger specular highlight to it. So that gives us some contrast with what we're looking at. So because if there was the same specular highlight, then it would just kind of flow equally over there. So there we go. Then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to add. I'm going to make it reflective as well. But this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing where we'll do the metal right here, but the color we want to make sure is going to be more of a black. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to make pretty much whenever I make materials, colors for materials, I do not I try not to make things 100% white or 100% black, because I don't have any type of, when I go really high, there's no specular highlights right there. So I don't get a whole lot of highlights right there. If I go 100% black, then I get no shadows and stuff like that. And quite possibly what's happening right there is that I'm also losing my specular as well. So I'm going to go try to pick a dark gray, but we're going to just kind of play around with it, because I still want to have those nice, interesting, I want it to be a dark color, but I also want it to have some nice, interesting looks for it. So maybe like a dark gray. And then we're just going to play around with it. So we're gonna come up with what we think is going to look really cool. I don't like that. Maybe I want this particular one to be really, the inside to be really more of a shiny one, to kind of be even more of a contrast, because the other ones have more of a roughness to it. And we'll see what we can kind of come up with. Again, we maybe make our specular strength really strong. And if we want to have some sort of a material, so then let's just look for metal texture. All right. And I'm just going to kind of look for something that I think might look really well, that could give me some interesting light striations and stuff like that. So probably nothing on these particular parts, probably nothing that would be super crazy. So because it would be on the inside, but we'll just see what we can find. And I might grab some stuff that's a little more scratch, because that might give us some interesting looks as well. And, and it never hurts to, let's see if we can save this. Sure, let's see what's going on right there. Now, as you see, I'm grabbing a whole lot of images for textures and stuff like that. Now, in 3D, depending on what you're doing, like there is like a moral gray, legal ground of can I use this or can't use that. If it's going to be a single image and stuff like that, and it's not going to be something where people are saying, hey, you're going to use this stuff, like if I'm just using it for a simple scratch and stuff like that, as long as, they're just really defaulted ones, you can use those, especially if it's just going to be like a single image. If you use a bump that's going to be super specific and it's going to have like a design in it or stuff like that, then you might want to not you might not want to use somebody's work with that without having them have accreditation for it. If somebody took let's put it this way, if somebody took a picture of grass and that grass is going to be blended in with like 2 or 3 other images, it's real hard for people to say, oh, that's that person's grass. I could have took that picture of grass, but if somebody did like a design, and this is a very specific design that they did, and you use that on your work, then it gets a little bit more difficult. So for this, I understand like some of the stuff is, we're just going to apply it, and we're just going to see what happens. Now, again, we want to tone this down a little bit as well. And that's giving me some weird ones. And there again, if I look at that image, you know, they're not really in conjunction with other stuff. So maybe I even try one of the other textures that we have. So let's load the silver one. Throw that in there, see what that looks like. And maybe this one, I'm going to use it in a horizontal fashion instead of it going left and right. So the black is getting the light sources of the stripe going up and down. And that'll give us a little bit of texture as well. Let's see what this looks over here. There we go. Again, we'll see what happens if I keep. There we go. There we go. You know, again, other things you can do too as well is, you know, if we want to add more of the, you know, the sample sizes and stuff like that, we can do that as well. It's really up to you on what you want to do. So maybe the silver one might have a really nice sample sizing for that. You know, we made that at, just throw it as 16 for both of them. Ooh. It's taking its time to render right now. That's 4 and that was 8. All right, cool. I think what I did is I'm on this one, I messed something up because I think this goes all the way back to the hilt. So I actually did mess something up. So on this ribs, these are all correct except for this part is supposed to go back all the way. So I just need to go ahead and select those, and then I'm going to apply the black material to it. So one thing that you're going to see here, one thing that's really nice is that when you're applying the stuff and you know you apply the materials and stuff like that to them, is that you don't have to worry too much about. And not in my, there you go. It's okay if you go over a little bit. There we go. And not, there we go. Cool. There we go. All right. I just want to make sure that I selected everything. Did I get that ring? I don't think I did. Nope. I'm going to go through here and select my ring again. It's really close. I understand when I reselect this stuff that I have these ones that are already selected. It's not going to matter. It won't change stuff because it's the same material. So it won't look weird and funky. I select everything. I think I got everything. Cool. Excellent. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply my black material on there. There we go. Excellent. We got these two lights, bam, bam, bam. Oh, let me make it sub D on. There we go. Right there, cool. Yeah, so as you can see, you know, there's not a whole, like I said, this project, there's not a whole lot. It's a lot of tweaking the colors and messing with these colors to make sure that they're how you want them to be. You know, because really you're messing with reflectance and messing and messing with bumps and stuff like that. If you don't like the different bumps, you know, you can look for stuff as well. You can try to find different ones. They don't have to be like silver or stuff like that. You know, as long, you know, I can apply any of these bumps that I want. Like maybe this one's a better one that I can use. Like here's some brush metal one. It's going to be more textured. So there are different ones you can use. They don't have to necessarily be for the different metals that you have, because they're going to, you know, like maybe this one would look really nice. Let's save this image for the black metal or something like that. Or maybe we can even try to throw that in the silver one right here. So my bump right here, throw that, pick a different bump color. There we go. That one, yeah. And see, the particular bump you pick is going to give you a different look as well. So like this one, this bump is, you know, if we look at it, has a lot more texture right there. It's going to give me a different look than with the striations and stuff like that. So if I wanted to, maybe I tone that down a little bit so it's not as crazy. Just a little subtleness with the bump right there gives me a little bit of texture. You know, that's a totally different look than the striations that you have right there. So the highlights, I really see it a whole lot with the highlights of the light source and stuff like that. You also get it with the reflection you can see right up here. You can see how the bump is interacting with stuff as well. You know, experiment with, you know, different things. So like don't just stick with one, you know, like what I went over with the different bumps, with the different colors and stuff like that. You know, see what works good for you and what you want it to be. So maybe, you know, just try different things, see how that works out for you. Because there's all sorts of, and again, so maybe you want to have like this gold metal, it looks really nice. But what we're really looking at are the highs and lows. So looking at ones that are gray are going to give you a different look for what you want to do. Now, like this one, if I do this one, we're not going to get those red colors. But we're going to get all those values. So if I look over here, and I apply this metal texture to it, it's going to give me a different look for it as well. Now, I'm not going to get like those colors, but I'm getting that bump information. Cool. Pretty simple. pretty simple. You guys have any questions, any concerns over this? Pretty much I think the thing that's going to take the longest, to be honest with you guys, is selecting the polygons for the black metal. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. How many of you guys are going to be modeling this top part? You don't have to. It's not required, but
I've used the extrude and everything to build that prior to adding the subdivide on it, and it just keeps up the whole.
yeah, I have this as a separate object. So I just build the box and whatever. It's okay to do that. You don't have to always build something just out of one piece, but if you can, you know. Yeah, so for this one, if I look at this, and I know we didn't go over that because, you know, we had stuff with that other than that, but so for this one, if I look at this as the base, so it's just pretty much a square and it pokes into it. Very similar to how these work right here. And these buttons are their own thing. This button's his own thing. And this is probably the most complex thing right here. The top part, but as you can see, there's a lot of loops and cuts and stuff like that. Yeah, you guys aren't required to do that, but if you guys were, you know. All right, cool. Well, that's it for the lecture and kind of going over that again. Like I said, this is a very simple project. Just take some time and, you know, enjoy yourself. And then, you know, you don't worry about having to get this done right away because this is going to be due on the 13th, 2 weeks. You guys have plenty of time.